we talking about today? Today is about domains. Getting a domain for your company, understanding what it is, how to find one, how to get it. And it's a starting point of creating a digital presence for your company. There's lots of stuff that comes after, and we'll dig into that later on. But today, what's a domain? How do you get one? So we're going to start with doing kind of a breakdown of a web address as a way to help us better understand what is a domain name. How do we think about it? With a website address. This is a website address for my company, Space Cadets. And I'm going to use this and kind of talk through to act as an explainer for what the domain name is itself. So we'll start with what's in the middle, this green item here. Sometimes this will be referred to as the domain itself, or it can be just the name, but really this is what you're going to specify, what you're looking for, be it your business name, some type of memorable item, whatever that may be, you're going to come up with it, but it's the combination that becomes important. It's not just a name, but it's this purple piece over here, what comes after that period. That piece is what's known as a top-level domain. Now, the most common one is .com, right? We're all familiar with that, but there's lots of other ones that you can choose. It used to be a little bit more explicitly sort of regulated what items could go with what, kind of top-level domain, .net, .org, etc. .gov is one that is specifically associated with government entities in the US. But it's that combination, the name itself plus your top-level domain. That's the piece that you want to be able to find. That's where you have to find that unique combination that's easy to remember and helps you get a website, email addresses, etc. that you want. Those two in conjunction are referred to as the root domain, and this is what you would go and lease. So just wanted to explain that briefly, and then I'm going to show this. This is another example when you're working with in a website, if you're at various points, and there's lots of other functions. It's not just web pages. There's also these subdomains. These are items that can come in front of that domain, and then you can also have page paths that are on the end. But for instance, emails may get sent to something like mail.spacecadets, or you might have an FTP server, which is a way to transfer files between different systems, ftp.spacecadets.co. And then this first one here, just for completeness, that's the protocol, right? So in this example, it's HTTPS. That means it's a secure encrypted version of web traffic. But that's a quick explainer for the domain name itself. Now let's get into how do you get one and what are the considerations that you need to deal with when you are looking to find your domain. So now that we have a better understanding of how to think about a domain name, what it is, and how to think about it relative to, let's say, a web address, what's next? How do you get one? Let's dive into it. So if you're going to look to get a domain, first thing that you need to understand is that you purchase a domain from a domain name registrar. And what that means is, again, you don't actually own that domain name in perpetuity. You rent or lease it. And there are a ton of different companies that are domain registrars that allow you to actually go search for different domains and then buy the rights to own that domain. So I have up here a couple of different domain name registrars, but there's lots of different options. So right here is Bluehost. I've used that before. It's pretty straightforward. GoDaddy is one that many people know because they had a bajillion different Super Bowl commercials back in the day. That's a very common one. Google has its own domain name registrar. Whois, which helps you identify the ownership behind a domain, also provides domain purchasing options. So what you really need to know is if you want to buy a domain name, you have to go to one of these, and then you can start to put in the terms and see what's available or what is not. So for me, I had started with Space Cadets. So if I wanted spacecadets.com, I can do a quick search of this, and you'll see, okay, this isn't available, I can't make use of it, but many of them will include, here are different options that you can look at that you may want to purchase based on what you put in. So for instance, I couldn't get spacecadets.com, but I could get spacecadets.website. Now, all of those are priced based on kind of the popularity of some of the different terms that are in place, as well as this domain extension on the back here. The most common being .com, but there's lots of options that you can go with. .com, .co, .org, .net, .website, .blog, .io, .ai, etc., etc., etc. What's important is to find something that you like and to find something that people are going to be able to navigate to. That's ideally what you want to be able to get to. So when you're thinking of a business name, go take a look, see what's available. And again, you'll see kind of the same thing show up when I do this across any of these domain name registrars. They'll all, one, say that I cannot get spacecadets.com, and then they'll generally provide different options or alternative suggestions that you can take a look into. And they're not that expensive. So in this instance, we're looking at purchasing spacecadets.website. If I add that to the cart, I can purchase that domain for 1 full year for $2. Now, not a great domain name, and if I wanted something more common, let's say spacecadets.net, that's going to be $19 to be able to purchase that for the year. When that year comes up, you do have to renew that purchase, otherwise you will lose access and ownership to the domain. Something else that's important to understand, you can transfer a domain that you've purchased to a different registrar. There are time constraints and some restrictions, so generally speaking, you have to have your domain purchased for 60 days or maybe 90 days before you can do that. So bear that in mind, but you can transfer it. So the purchasing process for a domain is pretty easy, right? It's not super complicated. The challenge is finding a domain that you like and that ties in with your business. So if you have a business name already, then you're going to look at, what are variations or combinations that you can find that fit, that maybe aren't too expensive and, allow you to, have a memorable website. And if you don't have a name, it's good to actually go through the process of trying to select a name while you're looking at domains, right? So if you're running through different options and things, have a domain registrar up and go and see what's available, what you can get. Because getting a good domain, once you have it, if you can lock it in, great. Then you can take off and run with it. The challenge is you want to find something that people are going to be able to find, that's easy for them to remember, any number of different combinations. There's a lot of stuff out there, and so the more you can create a domain that's unique and snazzy and kind of helps you stand out, all the better. So just keep that in mind. And again, if you haven't selected your business name, keep the domain selection process kind of at the forefront as you're going through trying to figure out what you want to call yourself. So now you've purchased your domain, right? You've gained access to it. A couple of things. Lots of stuff that you can do from here. We're going to dive into more details, but the few big ones that'll come up, right, is one, now you can go and create your own website, get it set up with that domain name, and you can create email accounts associated with it. But important thing to bear in mind, when you buy that domain from the domain registrar, pretty much every single one of them is going to offer a number of additional services, email with Google or Microsoft, places to host your website or whatever that may be. You don't have to make any of those decisions if you do not want to. None of that stuff gets tied into it. All you need to do at the start is just reserve the right to your domain, make that purchase. From there, everything else can kind of be configured and you can choose whatever vendor, whoever you're most comfortable with. You are not locked into that domain registrar, so just keep that in mind. I hope this helps, gives you a little bit of information, and yeah, good luck. If you're getting started, I wish you the best of luck and hope you find something that you love and is really awesome. And with that, I'll sign off, and we'll have some future content to help kind of expand on additional steps you can take from here. Thanks.